What's up, YouTube? Welcome to KO Bets. My name is Bill. We're starting up a show. We've got a preview for UFC Fight Night, Allen versus Craig. We're going to give the entire card a go. I think there's 14 fights. And I was taking my notes, and after probably close to 2 hours of note-taking, I just deleted the file on accident, which is rough, but it should be an interesting show. I think sometimes the show where I'm not looking at notes is even better than the other way around, so let's get into it. We've got first, we got to go over last week, UFC 294. Let's pause that. So we had UFC 295, Prochazka taking on Pereira. We got both the main event predictions right. I took Mackenzie Dern. I thought she was going to implement a grapple-heavy approach and just kind of got beat up. Tom Aspinall, I mean, it was going to be a round one KO. I think from a betting perspective, I don't think, you want to win, but I don't think either side felt super confident in a fight that was going to last a couple of minutes maximum. And then Alex Pereira, we talked about how Yuri keeps his hands low, the low leg kicks. It was like the first low leg kick out of the gate. It looked like he hurt Yuri. And then Yuri tried to engage in the pocket with Alex, and Alex hit him with the short left hook, and it was over. So those were good picks. Matt Frivola, our dog pick, didn't work out. Benoit Saint Denis got it done. Did happen early in round one, which we knew. I went with Pat Sabatini to stay safe against Diego Lopez. I thought he was going to grapple him, and just gets clobbered. Steve Erceg, really good fighter. I thought he won that fight pretty convincingly. Lupi Godinez got it done via split decision. I thought it was a really close fight. I thought she should have won unanimously, though. But it was a close fight. Rebecki just seems incredible, gets the round one submission, just keeps rolling. He's going to be tough. Sadikov, Borshev, draw. I took Borshev as the underdog pick, and it was a good call to call it a draw. I think Borshev was really good early, and then Sadikov had a 10-8 third round, right? Had the 3 takedowns. Borshev probably had a 10-8 first round, and then probably lost the next 2 rounds. That's how it went down. Yeah. Borshev looked good early. I didn't expect that cardio to die like that, but he was... Sadikov did a good job after the first round of getting him to wrestle and wear on his cardio. Jared Gordon, great win. Round 1 win against Mark Madsen. It seemed like a bad matchup for Mark Madsen. John Castaneda gets the win. Joshua Van looked really, really impressive in his win against Borjas. And then Jamal Emmers got it done in round 1. I picked Jamal Emmers. I didn't think he was going to get a finish, but pretty fun card overall. Now we got to move on to this week, though. We've got UFC Fight Night, Allen versus Craig. A lot more fights, it seems like, on this. I'm curious if one in particular is going to fall out here. Who is it? Yeah, this one, Lucy Pudilova against Eileen Perez. Perez was in the hospital after the weigh-in. Who knows what's going on there. But the first fight of the night we got is Charles Johnson taking on Rafael Estevam. Charles Johnson, 5 fights in the UFC, had the debut against Makayev, and I mean, I thought he looked really impressive in that fight, but then you see him in there against other grappling opponents, and I just would have. I'm just not super impressed with Charles. I think he's got a really good skill set, but something's missing from his approach, and I just think it's like, I think if he could fix just how competitive he is in the grappling side of the sport, I think he'd be much better. Like, he gets taken down, he can get back to his feet, but he gets taken down a lot, you know? And you can tell, like, he's not like a super high output guy. He's very technical. He's a good striker. He's probably got some power. We just haven't seen much of that yet. The output is not very good. One of his wins in the UFC is a split decision win against Zalgas. I think Zalgas probably won that fight just on output, but, overall just not super impressed with Charles Johnson, but I do think he has the skill sets to beat Rafael Estevam. I just can't back Charles Johnson in this fight, though, until I see like an ability to stop takedowns and refuse to go to the mat, keep it standing, output, punishing guys you're better than on the feet. Like, he should be better than Estevam on the feet, but Estevam's going to grapple with him. He's a good offensive wrestler. He's going to get him to the mat, I think, in this fight, and I think it's going to end up being another close decision for a Charles Johnson fight. So I think it could go either way. So for that reason, I'm going to say I'm going with the dog, Charles Johnson, but I think the favorite money on Estevam is probably warranted just because of what I've seen from Charles Johnson. He's just not doing what he's supposed to, I think, in the octagon and in these fights. So I'm going to roll with, just because I do think it's close to a pick'em. I think it's going to be a really close decision. I'm going to roll with that. I do think if the fight goes the distance at minus 200. I think that here, fight to be won by majority or split decision at plus 400. Johnson's been in two of them. 2 out of his 5 UFC wins or fights have been split decisions, and man, he's been in some close ones, So maybe not a bad idea. Trey Ogden taking on Nicholas Mata. Trey Ogden, haven't been very impressed with him thus far in the UFC. As a fighter, he's got some submission victories, carries no power on the feet, though, and isn't really a offensive grappler. It's not like he's going to take Nicholas Mata down in this fight. He's going to, try and make it a sparring match, stay on the feet, pick Mata apart and try and not get hit. And he's not going to... Mata doesn't... He was knocked out by, Jim Brown, and he's had 3 UFC fights. Jim Brown and Torres knocked him out, too. He's definitely can get knocked out, but with the 0 KO wins, I don't really see Trey Ogden doing that. If Mata doesn't get knocked out, I think he's pretty aggressive, likes to push forward. He's probably going to land the bigger strikes, be pushing forward as opposed to backpedaling more in this fight, and just visually look better if this goes to a decision. So I think he'll be the minute winner. So for that reason, I'm going to go with Nicholas Mata. On the money line, Mata is the favorite at minus 135. I like this to go the distance. It's basically a pick'em. I like the Mata decision. Could be another close fight, but I think Mata gets it done on pressure, power, output, that combination. The next fight we got is Lucy Pudilova taking on Eileen Perez. I just mentioned Eileen was in the hospital post weigh-in. Kind of crazy. But I like Eileen. She's very good at grappling. I mean, she seems like she'll be the more physically strong fighter, and Pudilova's probably better striking wise, but stylistically, I think Perez is just gonna try and push her against the fence, get takedowns, get in the clinch, and that's how she's gonna win this fight. Pudilova, in order to win, needs to stop takedowns, avoid getting caught against the fence, keep circling, and just land shots that wear on Eileen over 15 minutes. So I'm going to roll with Eileen Perez. I don't know if I mean, odds makers like this one to go the full distance. And I'm going to have to sign on with that, but I'm not like confident enough. I'm just pointing this out. I'm not like confident enough to put that as a parlay piece. Or I mean, what if Perez just does look, I mean, the hospital thing also just throws a wrench in this for me as far as like putting my money on it. But if she comes out and looks really good, I think she could potentially get some sort of submission in this fight. I think she could. Pudilova's not been very good on the mat thus far in the UFC. Doesn't have any. Oh. Who won that fight? So, Shevchenko, it looks like, got a submission, and I mean, she's not that amazing, but I'm just, maybe I'd consider sprinkling the plus 700 here for the Eileen Perez submission. I mean, just an idea. If that's how she's going to win, is grapple, get this fight to the ground, maybe she could have a submission or attempt or two against Pudilova. Let's see, grappling. Doesn't have any submission attempts, it looks like, in the UFC thus far, but something interesting. Jekka Sagari taking on Lucas Alexander. Lucas Alexander's the biggest favorite, I think, on this card, and I mean, it's for a good reason. Jekka Sagari's coming off of the loss to Jubilee, who we saw, he just lost on the Islam Volt card to Breeden, and yeah, I mean, I just, Sagari's got power. He's very dangerous on the feet, but I think Lucas Alexander is just gonna, I mean, he's way taller. He's got way more power, I think. He's way more dangerous. His kicks are really, really hard. I think if this fight plays out on the feet, Lucas Alexander's probably going to hurt Jekka at some point. Jekka does have some KO power, so like maybe we could have fun with the round 1 KO for Jekka, but I think ultimately Lucas Alexander warrants a heavy favorite. I don't know about 520, but probably gets the finish in this fight too. Odds makers don't like this to go the distance. I think at some point Alexander just hurts Jekka. So I'm going to roll with Alexander with the KO as a prediction, but as far as something I feel like Jekka isn't going to get the round 1 KO. So fight to start round 2 is minus 150. Can we even same game with this? We can't. But if we could same game this and do like Alexander and over like 1 round, that would be maybe something interesting to improve the odds. Mick Parkin taking on Machado. Heavyweight fight here. We've got Mick Parkin coming in. He looked really good in his debut against Jamal Pogue, but Jamal Pogue isn't like that amazing of a fighter. Parkin seems to be, on paper he's got, decent knockout prowess, but didn't really see that in his debut. Machado should engage and press the action a little bit more than like a Pogue, who seemed comfortable just making it like a point match. I think I could see Machado pushing the action a little bit more. He's really tough and durable. I think this is one of those heavyweight fights that probably doesn't get finished. So let's look at the odds. Not touching the money line. I'll go with Mick Parkin to win the decision. He is the heavy favorite at minus 380. Odds makers don't like this to go the distance. And then they like the decision for Mick. I'd have to agree. Maybe, man, there's a few where, like, if we're just sprinkling these won by split or majority decisions, like we sprinkle a couple of them, like that first fight. Gosh, man, like the first three, that one. There's just some close fights if these get to decisions, I think. Christian Leroy Duncan taking on Dennis Tilluen. Christian Leroy Duncan has a replacement opponent, I think, here in Dennis Tilluen. And, I think Christian Leroy Duncan is just better than Dennis Tilluen. Dennis Tilluen's a brawler, wants to get in a slugfest, doesn't have great cardio. If Christian Leroy Duncan can just stay safe in, the early portions of the first round, I think he'll look really good in this. So he's a heavy favorite. I don't know if they haven't even added any other lines. I would say I like the Christian Leroy finish if they do add that, but until they do and we see the odds, it's kind of hard to say. Like, looking for plus 100 plus or better kind of on a Christian Leroy Duncan finish. And we'll see. But Dennis Tilluen, lots of fun. His fights are, just because he's going to push the action, be a brawler. But just, it's not a good recipe for winning in the UFC. Chad Anhelager taking on Jose Johnson. Chad is like 1-3 in the promotion, right? Sorry, he's 1-1. I don't know, but he's 12-6 professionally. I'm just not a huge Chad Anhelager fan. Jose Johnson seems like a really dynamic striker and fighter. I gotta roll with him in this fight on the money line just to be the better striker. I think this takes place on the feet. I don't think it's going to get to the grappling. And then Chad is very hittable, takes one to give one, but, I think that's a bad idea against Jose Johnson, who does carry some pretty decent KO power. I like Jose Johnson in this fight a lot. He's minus 205 on the money line. I like the KO method of victory for him. Odds makers don't like this to go the distance. Chad's never been knocked out, I don't think, in his professional career. So maybe I'm being a little overzealous, and we should do like the Johnson KO or decisions minus 175. I'd probably just go money line. Next fight is Jonathan Pierce taking on Joe Anderson Brito. Jonathan Pierce is he's on a little bit of a win streak right now, right? Like 4 wins, something like that. Five wins. Got knocked out against Joe Lawson and is on a 5-fight win streak. Not the best competition, Morales, Rodriguez, they're pretty good, but yeah, I mean, Jonathan Pierce is going to want to grapple. He's a really good offensive grappler, has really good cardio, wears on his opponents. That's his strategy. And then Joe Anderson Brito's, just super dynamic and exciting, but doesn't have the best cardio. So it's an interesting fight. I'm kind of going back and forth on this. I think, decision only, I kind of like the Jonathan Pierce line. But if it's going to be a finish, Joe Anderson Brito is super dangerous, and I could see him definitely connecting with something against Jonathan Pierce in round 1, and I think he'll have the energy and cardio to stay on the feet in round 1. So I think there's a few different ways you can play this fight depending on who you like. I'm going to roll with Jonathan Pierce just because I like him to be the minute winner, but odds makers don't like this to go the distance. They like, I guess, the Jonathan Pierce KO, but I mean, I think my way of playing this might be Jonathan Pierce decision only there, and then for the finish only, or maybe Joe Anderson Burrito round 1, doing hedging it with that is maybe how I'm approaching this fight. It should be a really good fight, though. Should be, you got a couple of really good prospects that I always enjoy watching. So, and now we're on to the main card. We got Uros Medic taking on Mike Tikbeck Oralbau. Medic is a super exciting fighter. I want to click on his profile here. 9-1. Lost to Turner in round 1 via submission. Otherwise, has been, really good round 3 win against Semmelsberger. Has really nice stand-up power, and he's taking on Oralbau, who is a grappler, really good fighter. Good striker, coming in here though on short notice, and it's interesting to see Medic as the underdog in this. This is a tough fight to read, because if Oralbau doesn't get the early stoppage, we've seen Medic and his gas tank his power carries over round to round, and he could, maybe Oralbau's ready. Maybe he's ready to go 15, but I mean, you get the call from the UFC and you go. So it's interesting, and it's just a couple of it was this week he gets put in. I mean, I gotta go with in my mind it's basically a pick'em in the odd. So UFC.com's not accurate. The odds are plus 102 for Medic. Oralbau's minus 122 here on Draftkings, but I'll be interested to see if they add anything to this. I'm gonna go with Medic just as the underdog line in this fight. But Oralbau should be pretty good by all accounts, and I mean, does have good power, good grappling. We'll see what happens in that. Probably not going to bet on it, unless it swings in either direction, the line significantly, and I could get underdog odds on Oralbau or even better odds on Medic. If it's going to stay a pick, probably will stay away from it and just see kind of what we got in Oralbow. Luana Pinheiro taking on Amanda Ribas. Luana Pinheiro, she is 3-0 in the UFC, but hasn't fought anyone outstanding. Amanda Ribas should just be the better fighter in this matchup, I think. She should be more technical, better on the feet, better output, better defense, should be the better grappler in this fight, but Pinheiro's gonna probably carry a power advantage on the feet, so it'll just be interesting to see if Pinheiro causes any sort of reaction out of Ribas with her striking and forces her to take a grappling approach. But I just think there's a lot of path to victory for Ribas, so I'm going to go with her. She is the favorite at -238. Odds makers like this to go the distance. I have to agree. So I'm going to go with the Ribas decision. Peyton Talbot's taking on Nick Aguirre. Peyton Talbot, we saw him on Dana White Contender Series, and he's good. He's really, really good. Nick Aguirre is going to be looking to get this fight to the mat, and Peyton Talbot, I think, is got good size for the division and showed on Dana White's Contender Series. He's going to get back up. He's going to have good takedown defense. If you do get him to the mat, he's going to get back up, and he's going to be significantly better on the feet. I like Peyton Talbot a lot in this fight. He's the biggest favorite on this card. Yeah, -700. And I kind of like the finish. Odds makers, it's close to a pick'em. I like the Peyton Talbot KO. The dude's good. Just don't get controlled in this fight. Keep it on the feet, and he's got good output, good cardio, good power. Let's go Peyton Talbot. Make a splash in your debut. Chase Hooper taking on Jordan Leavitt. This is a fun fight. It's a couple of really, really highly skilled grapplers going at each other, and Jordan Leavitt and Chase Hooper. The banter back and forth between these two has been really fun too. They're just both super goofy. It's one of those fights, like, Chase Hooper's got good cardio, is a good grappler, has been improving in the striking department. Jordan Leavitt had a great performance in his last fight, right? Knocks out Martinez, outstrikes Ogden in their fight. Arguably, he was looking pretty good against Pimblett up until his arm gets caught in a rear naked choke. But I think it's a good fight. It's good matchmaking. It'll be a fun fight. Interested to see who will win. I'm gonna go with the underdog in Jordan Leavitt, because I do think it is just like one of those. I don't know if I actually bet on it. I like it to. I don't know. It's just such a tough read. I feel like they're both good at the same thing. And one of them's just going to be better than the other. I don't know. I know that's a shit breakdown, but I don't really know what to expect from either one of these guys against each other. It's just really good matchmaking, I think. So I think In my mind, it's closer to a pick'em than the lines indicate. We got Chase Hooper at minus 205, Jordan Levitt at plus 170. So I'm gonna roll with the underdog. Risk less, win more. Michael Morales taking on Jake Matthews. Michael Morales and Chito Vera. Chito Vera, Ecuador's never had a UFC champion, and they got Chito Vera fighting against Sean O'Malley in March. They got Michael Morales, who's gonna be a contender. So I think they might get a champion. If it's not this year with Chito Vera, I don't think it's gonna be Chito Vera. It's gonna be, in the next few years probably with Michael Morales, who just seems like just a really good fighter, good grappler, well-rounded, good power, good output on the feet, technical, fighting Jake Matthews, who's experienced, right? Well tenured in the UFC, but you look at his resume and he's beaten some, you recognize the names, right? Fiallo, the Leech, but outside of the Leech, it's just every good big name fighter who's made it into the top 10 of this division, he's lost to. He's just been losing to him. So I think this is a tough matchup for Jake Matthews. It's going to be a test for Morales, no doubt. But give me Morales to win this fight. Yeah, I'm going to roll with Morales. He is the favorite at minus 325. Always excited to see him fight. Man, it could be the finish, right? Morales has been, what is he? Is he 5-0 in the UFC? Decision unanimous. No, he's 3-0. KO. Great knockout power. Maybe we go knockout or decision at minus 250. Yeah, maybe that's what we do. The knockout or decision at minus 250. And then we're on to the main event. We've got Brendan Allen taking on Paul Craig. I love Brandon Allen. He is so good. And all of his fights are awesome. He's pushing the action. It's 21, 22 out of his fights have ended inside the distance. Same with Paul Craig, right? He's a majority. I think it's only one fight hasn't gone the distance in Paul Craig's career. But back to Brandon Allen, just super well-rounded. Young, has been improving. His only losses in the UFC, Sean Strickland, Chris Curtis. Funny that they're out of the same camp, but those are his two losses, and I just think, I think he's figuring it out, and he's gonna put together a contention run here, and I think Paul Craig's maybe not the opponent he deserves. I think he deserves someone above him in the rankings at this point at 185. But Paul Craig's a great opponent. He's got wins over Jamal Hill, Magomed Ankalaev. He's coming down from 205 after back-to-back losses to Walker and Ozdemir. Man, it's a great fight to make, right? It's a great fight, but if Paul Craig's a one-trick pony, if he's not getting a takedown, if he's not getting a submission, he's there's no way he beats Brendan Allen. And I think Brendan Allen's just, well-rounded enough where he's gonna beat Paul Craig. I think he's gonna finish him too. Give me Brendan Allen inside the distance. I'd say knockout. Just out of respect for Paul Craig's jiu-jitsu, but give me Brendan Allen. He's the heavy favorite at minus 440. Odds makers don't like this to go the distance. I like the Brandon knockout. Not a bad idea to ever sprinkle that Paul Craig submission. So that concludes the breakdown for UFC Fight Night, Allen against Craig. Let's see what's going on. What's trending? What? Oh, Jesus. What the hell? Zach LaVine, Alex Caruso, 2 first-round picks for LeBron. Come on. So, my Bulls, they need to break it apart. First of all, like, so there were a couple mistakes, right? You can't fault him for, like, the Lonzo stuff. I mean, was he injury prone heading into our business with him? Yeah, he was. He had been hurt with the Lakers. He had been hurt with the Pelicans. Whatever. I'm not, like, freaking out about that. But extending Billy Donovan after that first season when nothing, we were a sub 500 team after Lonzo got hurt, was horrible. And I was preaching this. Like, he had 1 year left. You don't extend him with this team. You had DeMar for 3 years. You could switch coaches in the last. It just didn't make any sense. You had Vooch on a contract year when Donovan's contract would have expired. It's just nothing about it made sense strategically to me. So, like, you gotta. Maybe he's not a bad head coach, but I just don't think he's a good NBA head coach. That's my opinion. And whatever, they were up 3-1 with the Warriors. Guess what? They had prime Russell Westbrook, prime Kevin Durant. And they lost a 3-1 lead. So I don't really think Billy Donovan's a good coach. So that's not good. The other thing is, I think after the first season, and worst case scenario, the second season, you just had to move on from DeMar. He's on a team-friendly contract. You had to unload him when he was worth his most. And now you're in this position where LaVine is probably going to get moved. I would expect back a package similar to, like, what Drew Holiday fetched. I would love to get, like, if there's, like, you look at what the Kings and Pacers did, where the Pacers traded away Sabonis, the Kings traded away Halliburton, and it was like, it worked out for both teams. I don't care what. I think it worked out for both teams. It would have been great if the Pacers could have kept Halliburton and Sabonis. Yeah, great. But I think it worked out well. And then, so I wonder if there's some sort of deal like that for LaVine, where you could replace kind of a proven scoring person for a young asset who's just super promising. Like, look at the Nets, what they fetch for Durant. I'm not saying you're going to get the same haul for LaVine, but if you could get, like, a Mikal Bridges and a couple first-round picks, if you could get a Keegan Murray, and a couple of first-round picks, if you could get I don't really want Hero, but Hero and a couple first-round picks, like, that's cool. You got Caruso, Vucevic, LaVine, DeRozan. You should move them all. You should move Drummond if you can move Drummond. See what you got in Kobe White and Pat Williams and rebuild. That's my advice. All right, trending. I don't know who Party is. She's trending. Jordan Poole's been... Dude. Let's see what's going on in the NBA. I mean, I'm pulling up his... Yeah, Poole is... Dude, Poole is not... He's good, but, like... Man, it was not... People were freaking out when Golden State traded him for an old Chris Paul. It was a good move if Golden State's trying to contend, because Poole is just... He's turnover heavy. He's inefficient. He's expensive, too, for what he is, so... Not a big Jordan Poole fan. Not at his price tag, like a max contract or whatever it is. Man, have the Cubs made any sort of moves in free agency? Where do you think, what's his face is going to go? Shohei Ohtani. Stacey Abrams' brother-in-law, Jimmy Gardner, has been arrested on human trafficking allegations. Whoa! Whoa. She's gross. Man, what do you... I don't know what to think. Miles Bridges, I think, he's been having a pretty good game against the Bucks tonight. Lonzo's having a game. Or sorry, LaMelo, 37, 5 and 5. Holy shit. He's nice. He's another guy though that's like, if you could get him more spot up shooters, and you could you don't need him taking 30 shots a game. You want LaMelo taking like 15 to 20 shots a game, I think. Maybe even less, personally. But Miles Bridges is having a good game in his debut. 33 minutes, 17, 4 and 5. He's a good player, but I don't know. Like, there just needs to be, I think, a little more accountability and for the kind of shit that's going on. And I know you can't like admit that stuff publicly, but like I just don't like it. I think it's a yucky look. I think it's a yucky look for the Hornets. Knicks are up. I went with what's his name? Brunson's big. 29, 6, 4. Randall's having a good game. For the Knicks. Knicks got a good team, and RJ Barrett's playing well too. I mean, the Sixers are really good. I think they could use another rotational player, though. I'm a big fan of the Pistons and what they've got brewing, but I didn't realize they're only 2-10. One of those wins is against the Bulls. Yeah, of course the Bulls are down. I mean, we're ass. We are horrible. Alright, let's exit that. Thanks for tuning in. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel. This is KO Bets. My name is Bill. Have a nice weekend, everyone.